Hi, friends. Today I have the honor of introducing to you Dr. Oshin Bhatia. And the key thing that I wanted to tell you today here is that he has a rank 2. And the percentile difference between rank 1 and 2 is actually very minimal. He's a rank 2 in this year's INICET 2020, which is the first time in India where they have all the central institutes have come together to conduct a joint exam. Awesome achievement in a great exam. Oshin, tell me, how are you feeling today, and how were you feeling in the morning when you saw the result? And how was the
Thank,
anxiety level yesterday when they were supposed to give the result?
yeah, thank you so much, sir, for congratulating me and placing me in front of your audience, such a large audience. And yeah, I'm feeling very nice. Actually, I have been waiting for the result for the last like 4 to 5 days, and was supposed to be there yesterday only, but I kept waiting for till late at 11. Then I just slept. अब किसी का फोन आ जाएगा तो ठीक है. So in the morning, a couple of my friends called me up at 7 o'clock. So then I got to know the result and shared the news with my parents. Yeah. So and immediately after that, I had to be at the OPDs, my duties, and so it was also rushed up. So yeah, I'm taking time to feel good. Yeah.
And this result has been, even more commendable because you've been able to do it with your internship, and your internship is still going on.
Yes, sir. I'm still doing my internship, and the last 3 months I had my postings in the rural centers, the extension PHCs of AIMS. So yeah, it was pretty hectic in the last months, but yeah,
And Ocean, I wanted to know that you started early. You started with the DAMS foundation course, and then
yes,
you continued on to a test and discussion course with your internship. So I wanted to know from you, like, what was the first, time where you realized that, okay, this is, I need to prepare for a competitive exam, and what changes did you feel in yourself after joining the classroom program?
yeah. For the first two profs, like for the first and the second prof, I only referred to like the standard textbooks, and I was only on my own. And entering into this final prof, so I thought that some focus must be given to the PG preparation. So to streamline your studies, because there are a lot of subjects in the final prof, so one might lose track of what to follow, what not to. And I mean, we are supposed to read standard textbooks, but all the standard textbooks of the clinical subjects, I mean, the standard books are actually MD textbooks. So you need to have an idea of what to focus on and what to just skim through. So that way, foundation course really helped me. I attended all the clinical subjects foundation course 2 years back, and then I joined TnD course, which is a must for PG prep, I would say, because it helps you streamline your time schedule to prepare accordingly and get an idea of where you stand, and uh, just prepare accordingly. So yeah.
And how was your experience in both the courses? Like both the courses serve different purposes. Like
Yeah.
foundation is intended for a student who is beginning to prepare and find out that, okay, this is what you need to do. And I liked a line that you said, which was very beautifully said, that you need teachers not only to tell you what is required, also to tell you what is not required, because otherwise
Yeah.
the books are too vast. You might actually put your energy into some things which are unusually asked or which are not important for a MBBS level graduate. So I think you put it in a very
Yeah.
intelligent way.
Foundation
But
course actually helped me, like,
separate TND is a course for a separate. So please compare them for us, please.
yeah, foundation course I found it useful in a way that I got to have notes for myself, which helped me both in my professional examinations and in my PG prep. And in the TND, I actually got to know where do I stand. I mean, how do how do I fare as in my preparation as far as the test is concerned. So in the foundation course, you actually keep on going studying and just write the professional exam, but getting a hang of the MCQ patterns and all that. So that was all. I mean, the test and discussion program helped me get a hang of the MCQ patterns and just solving questions. Yeah, and yes, managing the time schedule to revise the 19 subjects in all. So by the end of August. So
I totally agree because what happens is when you are studying on your own, sometimes, for one subject, you might go for 10 days, 12 days, but when you are in a TND program, you know that this is the seventh day and there is going to be a test and I need to finish it by then. It gives you those targets.
yeah,
And that is why when the NEET PG 2021 was delayed, we announced a fast track TND for those students so that we can give them targets. Because I'm sure Ocean will agree as a medical student, we study the most when the exam is on our head. Otherwise,
yeah,
we tend to push it further. And
yeah. The last 7 days were like that only. I mean, just no sleep and reading all and all, revising notes. Yeah,
did you also use the revision material that we have? Like, you've done the classroom course with us, test and discussion with us. Then, did you also use the AIMS capsule and the DVT integrated session that we conducted?
yeah. I used the DVT session which we had. I mean, it actually helped a lot because the questions in INICET were like a lot of integrational concepts. Like medicine had a lot of cases with microbiological stains and all examination findings given, and the options were also quite tricky. So having a basically a broad concept base based on integrational thing, so that helped me a lot. And in AIMS capsule also things like pathology updates, like the new edition, and in obs gynae contraceptives, radiation sensitivity, and also the COVID thing, which I watched thoroughly, the whole 5 hour session. And we had around 5 to 6 questions on COVID. So that way it helped a lot in the last month of my prep.
Definitely, I would say COVID was the man of the match in this exam. I think we had
Yeah,
4 or 5 questions, and I think we will have more questions in COVID, even the NEET PG as well, in the coming year as well. Till
yeah,
the time it becomes history, they will, we will all have to battle this problem. I also want to know from you, like, Oshin, that whenever this is what I believe, and I want you to add on to it, or maybe give us a perspective that whenever we start studying in third year, at that time it is a good idea to go subject wise. But when we are ending our study, like this time when you were with us in the DVT session, then you might have noticed the transition that we did. We transitioned from the subject wise teaching to system wise teaching. But if we begin by system wise, it may not be possible at third year or second year because you
yeah,
don't know the entire thing. But
yeah.
we should start subject wise and system wise. Can you tell us something about it, because the exam is in that fashion.
Yeah, just going into the August end of this year, I thought that like I had read all the subjects and my preparation was quite decent. But when I was the DVT session and all, and integrational thing, when I was exposed to this, I found I could find a lot of lacunae in my understanding and go back to the subjects, respective subjects, and go thorough with the topic. So yes, because the questions are framed in such a way that there's no particular subject which you can pick up, like it's from which subject. So in that way, the session really helped me because all the pharma, medicine, radio, pathology, all they were clubbed together, and I had a habit of reading like integrational thing, reading one topic from all the subjects. Like if I'm reading CBS, I would read it from medicine, pediatrics, and also covering radio and path with it. So that way, it actually helped me revise it quite well in time. In the end, the hectic postings which I had. So yeah,
And I think this time you had a lot of questions where, we started with a patient with a malignancy or a liver metastasis, then the pathology was given, and you had to talk about
yeah,
the primary or a pneumothorax
yeah,
X-ray, but you had to talk about the management. Like it was all like you could not do it if you only know one subject, but if you know more subjects, you are able to do it. And
yes,
if you are able to see the connections, I think that becomes the vital point at this, in this exam. And when we are talking about this exam, I also want to use this opportunity to ask you about this particular exam. Can you give us more about the analysis, like out of the 200 questions, what subjects were represented at what ratios, how many visuals, how many multiple completion type? Can you give some ideas about your thoughts about this paper, and how many did you attempt and how many did you get right in the end?
yes, sir. So actually, it was also rushed up. The examining body in the just in the last month they decided to have this common paper, And so I thought uh, there was supposed to be multiple patterns of questions, but in the end they just put single option correct. So for that they had to give those multiple completion type framed as single option correct. So there were a lot of questions, around, I mean, 30 to 40 questions, 30 to 40% of the questions which were like multiple options correct but framed as a single option. So, and the options were tricky. The question seemed to be simple, just like the pneumothorax question. There were two options which were very close. So, the options were tricky. That was the first takeaway. And uh, the subject distribution, I can't actually recall, because all it was so integrational that we didn't know that from which subject they asked this question. So, like, there was a question on myasthenia gravis, like the drugs which enhance the uh, which worsen the prognosis. So it is given in Harrison, but one could think that it's from the pharma. But so that was the point. So yeah, and I ended up attempting 193 questions in total, out of which two were misprint and also around 195. And I don't know actually how much correct I got, but I did get around 30 questions wrong. So it must be around 75%. I It's my estimate, but not sure.
And I also want to know from you that those two questions, like where one of the questions I think the image was missing and one of the
Yeah.
questions I think the image was missing. So what was your idea on the day of the exam? Did you refresh your questions multiple times that is it for me or is it for everybody? Did you panic or did you leave them once you were
No,
sure
I
that this?
just left them. I thought it would be same for everyone. Even if another had had the right question, they would be reviewing it and giving marks accordingly. That was not a problem. Yeah, a bit of problem was that the images were not zoomable. I mean, they were, I mean, distant shot, and so that was a problem. But still, some of the images were okay. Like, they were very clear, but some of them, like question on forensic, and I had to revisit it 4 to 5 times to get to the right answer. And yes, I had to pick up cues from the question itself. Like, the image was not clear, but so the cues in the question helped me pick up the right answer. And yeah, visual based questions were there from every subject: instruments, anesthesia, even COVID. It was high flow nasal cannula system and anesthesia, as I said, and a lot of it from anatomy, head and neck. And yeah.
I think anesthesia was a surprise this year. I think number of questions in an AIMS like
Yeah.
exam, they may not even have one question at this time. They had I think 7 8
Yeah.
questions. But I think
Yeah,
this
the other
time,
part was like standard aims, like approach based, emergency, trauma, general surgery, breast, and the instruments. Uh,
mm,
and those are all the common things. Yeah.
yeah. But they had representation of all subjects this time, I think.
Yes.
Like
Yes, sir.
sometimes in the previous aims, one or two subjects would get missed or maybe negligible questions. But this time, because of the integrated nature, I feel that they accommodated all subjects, I think, and all kind of patterns. And I totally
Yes,
agree
sir.
that, it felt that they converted multiple patterns into
Yeah.
single best response. And that
Yeah.
created the, do if I ask you to crystal ball, although you will not give the next INICT, you're already on the top list now, but if somebody is giving the next INICT, do you think they might have multiple patterns back because this time they had less time to do this?
First of all, I am not even sure they would have the same exam. They might do something else, entirely something else. But yes, because AIMS has been taking the multiple pattern exams, like for the last, I think, 3 sessions. So they might give, but they might also tell another institute, JIPMER or PGI, to conduct the exam. So I'm not exactly sure about that. And
Mhm.
yeah, but
I know.
we should be prepared for multiple patterns.
My
Because the strategy differs, like in true false question, match the column questions, how aggressive you want to play. If all those patterns come in the same exam, then got to decide different level of aggressiveness for each question. So that's the trick. So yeah.
my advice, the simplest advice that I feel that any future aspirant should, hear from Ocean here is that, please be good at all subjects And please be prepared for all kind of patterns. Don't take it for granted that this year the exam has been like this, because now we are dealing with multiple institutes, multiple national importance institutes together. So there would be some rotations happening, things
Yeah,
happening. It is always good to be good at all kind of patterns, and be confident till the end that okay, even if it's a match the following, I'll be able to do it. At the end of the day, it is your knowledge that counts.
yeah. I
And
had plans of, yeah. I had
yeah,
thought
please take.
about doing PGI previous year also. I was thorough with the aims previous years, but I thought of doing PGI previous years in the end, but I couldn't get time. So I still don't know that if there were repeats from PGI previous years. If they had recommended some topics, like it was supposed to be conducted by examination section aims in consultation with specific bodies from all the other institutes. So that also might play out some in some way in the next sessions.
I think you have done a good analysis for all the future
Yeah.
aspirants. Anything that I want to know about your exam skill, like you did 193, but were you able to do 193 in the first go, or how many did
No, no.
you in the first go, and then how did you go about the remaining questions?
So yeah, so I had a problem with time management towards the end of my prep, giving grant tests and all. So I thought that time could be managed well if I keep a lot of questions for review, because I would see a question at the first go and I would mark the best answer in half a minute or 40 seconds. I would keep as many questions as possible for review. So it gives a lot of leverage to go through the first reading in a good time and then come back to the other questions. So I kept for review around 40 to 45 questions for the last half an hour. So so and and because doing questions for the second time, it doesn't take much time. It just enables you to have another thought at the question, look all the options again and think from another angle. If you still think that's the right option, the same, you just go ahead with the same option. So yeah, I kept around 40 to 45 questions for the last half an hour for 35 minutes.
Did you finish on time, or did you finish 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before? What was the
Yeah, I managed to finish it on time. Yeah.
pretty good,
I
pretty
mean, yeah, the last questions were review, so for review, so I took all my time to go through them and mark
great.
the best response I could. And I was aiming for answering more than 190 questions because all of them were single choice correct. So I also got an estimate of how much I should mark and which all question I could leave.
And Ocean, I also want to know from you, like, how do you compare somebody who starts in third year preparation or somebody who would start an internship? Like, if you start early, do you get the advantage of taking it easy while enjoying it? Or what kind of approach would you suggest to a future aspirant? Like, you started early, you started in third year.
Yes.
Did it give you the ease that okay, you did not have to rush too much into, like, if suppose somebody has to do the entire syllabus in 6 months, you would have to push harder. Like, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the point is that the course is so lengthy. There are 20 subjects and you are required to read from standard textbooks. So you need to start early and get, as I said earlier, the foundation course helped me get all my notes in the right place, and also helped me just make out what all should I read and what should I do, what I should not. So that was the most helpful part. As regards starting preparation earlier, that I got to have the notes which I could revise in the internship. Because in internship per subject you get around 7 to 10 days only. So reading all the subjects thoroughly is not at all possible. It's only the revision which you can do well in internship. So starting early was pretty important for me, and foundation course actually helped me a lot go into the internship. And
Any teachers that come to your mind today when you look back at your journey with DAMS, foundation teachers, TND teachers? I'm sure you
yes,
have
sir.
studied on face-to-face platform, the mobile
Yes.
app platform,
Yeah.
multiple teachers.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to name Dr. Arvind from medicine, and yourself for radio, and Deepthi ma'am for gynecology, Sachin sir for psychiatry, and Rajiv Dhawan sir for ENT, and Rajiv Shetty sir for CCM, SPM, community medicine, And yeah,
And any particular, moment that comes to your mind, like, any particular moment in the dance classroom, or, in during your dance days, that comes to your mind, maybe a moment with a teacher or a moment with friends where you realize that, which changed something in you, and any moment that comes to your mind that on that class you thought, okay, this is what gives me a perspective.
yes, sir. Your sessions have been actually quite enriching, and I still know the radiology foundation class in the big stadium, and the 2 weekends which we spent there, 12 hours each. So that was quite enriching, and that is what I cherish the most. All the encouraging thoughts which you share, and
Thank you, Ida. And
yeah,
also, now that you are on the other side of it, now that you've managed to add a big silver lining to this 2020 year, but this year would not have been easy. Like you must, you're right now an intern. There must have been duties, then there were always fear of exposure to COVID and all
yeah,
those things. Like, how did you manage the stress of 2020 and career? It's like a massive balance
yeah.
required.
Yeah, it's only about getting things right in the right place, like not wasting a lot of time, and giving particular, like keeping a minimum set of hours, like 2-3 घंटे तो थोड़ा बहुत तो देख ही लेना है, कुछ भी हो जाए. So it was all about time management and managing internship schedules and all, because this time we also had like TNDs and all on app. So that was also important, like कि कोई छूट गया तो कोई नहीं, बाद में देख लेंगे. So I ended up having a lot of subjects pending for the last 1 to 2 months. So I managed to do them, but still that was the factor. Live session तो हो नहीं रहा. So time management was key,
And I
and
also think,
having a trust on yourself that you
Mhm.
got to do it and getting the things right.
And I think, what he's rightly pointed out, that what happens is, whenever a live session is happening on the mobile app, it is important to attend it live. Like when we are
Yeah,
doing a e-medical session, say do it live. If you postpone it, there are
yeah,
chances that it will pile up. If you, it will
yeah,
pile up, and then I'll see it later, I'll see it later, it happens. So that is one of the important things that comes to this. And Ocean, I also want to know from you, like, you know, if uh, if we were supposed to, if we try to make a list of important topics on the basis of this year's INICET, can you, say, and give us a list of, like, say 10, 12 things that you felt were there in the exam? Like for example, emergencies, definitely
yeah,
there. Or like, you create a list like this?
yeah. So starting from medicine, emergencies, and general approach to medicine, the
Mhm.
clinical symptomatology and approach to infectious syndromes like meningitis, pneumonia, and how to get around with the patient in the first place. So approach, emergencies, and approach for all the clinical subjects, in fact, like
Mhm.
getting to know the protocols in obs gynae and in the surgery, and gradings, important grading and staging of tumors, of various other things. Like we had a question on Strasbourg classification. I just read it on the last day. I had a list of all the important gradings kept in a separate textbook and a separate book, and I brushed through it on the last day. So that was the point. And just and for anatomy, a lot of image based, head and neck and upper limb. Uh, these days they are asking, and yeah, and from the subjects like anesthesia, ENT, a lot of instruments, common endoscopy images. These We also had tubes and endoscopes asked, a difference between bronchoscope and an endoscope, upper GI endoscope. So instruments is important, and the general surgery part, trauma part. Uh, yeah,
Great. And Ocean,
and
if I may,
biostats and CCM, SPM.
yes, biostats made a comeback this time.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
a couple of
Some
questions are there.
biostats and AIMS exams are usually, like this. Some exams there is there. Sometimes they miss it. But I think
Yeah,
whenever we go for an AIMS exam, it's always good to look at biostats before that. And Ocean, also I want to know about your mindset. Like, like you told us that this was not an easy year, and I'm sure this was not an easy year for anybody. But then, how did you manage to keep your morale high throughout the year? Or were there any points where you were like, इस बार नहीं होगा, आगे देखेंगे, मई में देखेंगे? How did you manage this entire, mindset and the peaks and troughs that happen in our mind during this tough period?
Yeah, I thought the most important thing is about keeping your goal intact. Just postponing it or just getting around it won't help. So keeping my date, the date of the exam in mind, the month of November. So I had a plan, a rough plan of how much revision should I give and when should I complete my first reading. So and managing time accordingly. So that was the key point. I had my target in mind and working towards it, and managing time on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, that was the main point for me.
And now that you've done so well and you are on the other side now, you have, your own choices. You can pick up any branch. Any thoughts on which branch would you be joining now?
Yeah, I'm planning to take up general medicine, internal medicine at AIMS. I've done my MBBS from AIMS only, so I wish to stay back here.
Great.
Yeah,
And that's a great thought and a great department with, I think,
yeah,
great company. You will have a great company in the department. And
yeah.
I also want to know, Ocean, from you, like, do you want to give any message to future Damsonians, future Dam students, PG aspirants who are listening to you today? Anything that you want to tell them that, any motivational thing that you want to tell them today?
Yeah, it's all about keeping the goal ahead of yourself and having a trust on yourself that you are going to get all the things right, and managing your work accordingly, and keeping all your ears and mind open to get to know about the latest updates and following the things, so that you don't miss upon any new thing or any new update. Like COVID, we had 5 to 6 questions, so getting up to date and just keeping a goal in mind is important.
And keeping fully engaged on the task on
Yeah,
at hand. You keep reminding yourself that I have a November exam to give, I have to do this, and keep coming back to your revision and your notes so that
and yes, the
you're.
revision. Yeah, the revision part is the most important. Having minimum of 3 to 4 revisions towards the end of the exam in the last 2 to 3 months is extremely important.
Some students in the live chat are asking like, how many revisions were you able to do? Talking about revision.
Yeah, I had thought about doing around at least three set of revisions but I ended up like revising almost all the subjects at least once and a couple of subjects twice or thrice. So actually framed my revision according to the weaknesses in my subject. All the subjects I revised at least once towards the end, and then I did topic wise revision, important topics and the topics which I was weak. So on an average 2.5 sets of revisions I had. So at least 3 revisions is a must.
Great, Ocean. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. It is an honor that you have been a student in foundation course and test and discussion course, and you have got a rank 2 in this year's INICET. You have analyzed the paper very well. I feel very, very proud of you as a teacher that you've done so well in life, and I'm sure we will take another interview of yours after DM entrance exam also. I'm sure you'll keep rising and keep shining, further as well. I wish you all the best on behalf of the entire DAMS faculty team, DAMS team, DAMS. Otherwise, everybody, put together wants to wish you all the best for your future and congratulate you on your achievement. And I would love to meet you personally as well once this
Yes,
pandemic goes. I definitely would want to meet you and you know sit with you, hear your story, and it would be a great thought if we can actually invite you over to meet next year's students as well
yes,
in
sir.
future. I wish you all the best, and
Thank you
I
so much, sir. Thank you
would
so
like to
much.
once again congratulate you. And please convey my regards to your parents. God bless you, beta.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, beta. Bye.